The microbiome, the second brain that controls your mood. From mystery to the recognition of the unknown. The organ you didn't know about. We have an organ that medicine ignored for centuries. It's not in the brain, it's not in the heart, it's in our gut. And right now, as you listen to this, that organ is producing 90% of your serotonin, regulating your anxiety levels, and sending direct signals to your prefrontal cortex that influence every decision you make today. This isn't a metaphor, it's documented neurobiology. Over the past 8 videos on this channel, we've learned to build something. We've understood how your brain sleeps, how your dopamine is regulated, how your cortisol works, how BDNF grows, and how your cells regenerate under hormetic stress. Today, we close the circle, because everything we've built from the top down, from the brain, can be enhanced or destroyed by an ecosystem that works from the bottom up. Welcome to the gut-brain axis. What is the microbiome and why does it matter? The gut microbiome is the collection of all microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, and fungi that primarily inhabit your large intestine. We're talking about 38 trillion microorganisms. To put that into perspective, you have approximately 30 trillion human cells. There are more microorganisms in your gut than cells in your entire body. And for most of medical history, we treated them as mere passive inhabitants of the digestive tract. That model is thoroughly researched. In 2019, John Cryan and Ted Dinan of University College Cork published the most comprehensive review to date on the gut-brain axis in physiological reviews. Their conclusion was clear. The microbiome is not a passenger. It's an active co-pilot of your nervous system. It produces neurotransmitters, regulates systemic inflammation, modulates the blood-brain barrier, and communicates bidirectionally with the brain via a biological highway we already know, the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the human body. It originates in the brainstem, descends through the neck, passes through the thorax, and reaches the gut. And here's the fact that changes everything. 80% of the information that travels along the vagus nerve goes from the bottom up, from the gut to the brain, not the other way around. Your gut doesn't take orders from the brain, it reports back to it. What your microbiome produces. When we say that the microbiome affects mood, we're not talking about a vague correlation. We're talking about direct chemical synthesis. Gut bacteria produce and regulate substances that act directly on your nervous system. 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut, not the brain. Enterochromaffin cells are responsible for producing this serotonin. They are stimulated by certain bacteria of the lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium genera and synthesize the serotonin that regulates not only intestinal transit, but also mood, sleep, and appetite. What you're feeling emotionally today has a production chain that begins in your gut. Bacteria also produce short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate, propionase, and acetate, which result from the fermentation of dietary fiber. Butyrate is particularly relevant. It is the primary fuel for colon cells, reduces intestinal inflammation, and, crucially, crosses the blood-brain barrier where it acts as an epigenetic modulator, influencing which brain genes are expressed and which remain silenced. And there's more. Gut bacteria produce GABA. This is the main inhibitory neurotransmitter in the central nervous system, responsible for calmness and reduced anxiety. Studies by Cryan's group, led by Dr. John F. Cryan, a neuroscientist and professor at University College Cork, UCC, and APC Microbiome Ireland, showed that mice without a microbiome exhibited significantly higher anxiety responses than mice with a healthy microbiome. When the microbiome was restored, anxiety decreased. Calmness isn't just a mental state, it's also a microbial state. The three enemies of the modern microbiome. If the microbiome is so powerful, why do so many people experience mood swings? Why do we suffer from chronic anxiety and systemic inflammation? Because the modern lifestyle is systematically destroying microbial diversity. There are three factors decimating it in real time. The first is ultra-processed food. Beneficial bacteria feed on fermentable fiber, which you find in vegetables, legumes, whole fruits, and whole grains. A diet based on ultra-processed foods deprives these bacteria of their substrate. Without food, they die. And their place is taken by opportunistic bacteria that produce inflammation. The PREDICT study, published in January 2021 by Dr. Tim Spector, an epidemiologist and professor at King's College London, along with bioinformatician Dr. Nicola Segata from the University of Trento, Italy, with more than 1,000 participants, confirmed that microbial diversity decreases proportionally to the consumption of ultra-processed foods. The second enemy is a disrupted circadian rhythm. Here, the connection to our earlier videos is direct. The microbiome has its own circadian rhythm. Bacterial composition and activity fluctuate throughout the 24-hour period in sync with the suprachiasmatic nucleus. When you sleep poorly, eat at irregular hours, or live with artificial light at night, the microbial rhythm becomes desynchronized. And a desynchronized microbiome produces more inflammatory endotoxins and fewer beneficial neurotransmitters. The third factor is chronic stress. Sustained elevated cortisol levels, which we already discussed in topic 5, increase intestinal permeability. The barrier separating the contents of the intestine from the bloodstream becomes porous. Bacterial endotoxins enter the systemic circulation, causing brain inflammation and suppressing the production of serotonin and BDNF. It's the same vicious cycle we've seen in each video, but now we're seeing it from the gut's perspective. The endogenous protocol, 4 levers without supplements. The good news is that the microbiome is one of the body's most malleable systems. It can change significantly in 72 hours with lifestyle interventions. You don't need expensive probiotic supplements. You need to create the conditions for your beneficial bacteria to thrive. The first lever is fermentable fiber diversity. Each bacterial species feeds on different types of fiber. The strategy isn't to eat more of one food, it's to increase the number of different plant sources per week. Research from the Human Food Project, published in May 2018 by biologist and microbiome expert Dr. Rob Knight, director of the Center for Microbiome Innovation at UCSD. Researcher Daniel MacDonald and Dr. Tim Spector of King's College London in the UK suggests that consuming 30 different types of plants per week leads to the greatest documented microbial diversity. Not 30 servings, 30 different types, spices, seeds, and herbs. The second lever is the circadian rhythm of eating. Eating within an 8 to 10 hour window, aligned with daylight hours, synchronizes the circadian rhythm of the microbiome with that of the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Studies by Sachin Panda at the Salk Institute, published in December 2014 in the prestigious scientific journal Cell Metabolism, confirmed that prolonged overnight fasting not only benefits metabolism, it also increases bacterial diversity and reduces pro-inflammatory bacteria. The third lever is exposure to environmental microbiomes. Your microbiome isn't built solely on what you eat. It's also on what you touch, breathe, and who you live with. Contact with soil, nature, plants, and animals introduces environmental bacteria that enrich your microbial diversity. Graham Rook's studies on the old friends hypothesis demonstrate that the loss of contact with environmental microbiomes is directly linked to the rise in autoimmune diseases and mood disorders in urban societies. The fourth lever is Zone 2 exercise, which you already know from the BDNF video. Moderate aerobic exercise not only activates BDNF, but also increases butyrate production by gut bacteria and raises microbial diversity. The study by Clark et al., published in Goot in 2014, compared the microbiome of professional rugby players with that of sedentary individuals. The players had significantly greater microbial diversity and higher levels of butyrate-producing bacteria. Closing the macro cycle, let's pause for a moment and look at everything we've built together. Deep sleep cleanses the brain with the glymphatic system. Morning light anchors the circadian clock. Endogenous dopamine protects your reward system. Calibrated cortisol programs your daily energy. BDNF fertilizes your neurons. Hormetic stress regenerates your cells. And the microbiome is the ecosystem that fuels all of the above from below. This is the first major full cycle of your biohacking channel. 8 systems, 8 mechanisms, 0 pharmacology, all within your biology. But there's a territory we haven't yet explored, a deeper layer beneath the microbiome, beneath the neurons, beneath the hormones. A layer where all of this is more permanently encoded, where lifestyle leaves imprints that can last for years or decades. We're talking about epigenetics, how your environment modifies the expression of your DNA without changing a single letter of your genetic code. In the next cycle of the channel, we're going to understand why you're not a slave to your genes. You never were. Before you go, tell me in the comments which of the 8 systems we've covered in these videos, sleep, dopamine, cortisol, BDNF, hormesis, microbiome, has changed your perspective the most? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. See you in our next video.